doesn't get the nomination, or it goes to the second round at the DNC convention, Milwaukee will burn. It'll start in Milwaukee, and then when the police push back on that, and other cities will.
So the gulags weren't that bad.
Let's talk about it, y'all. Middle America. Well, less than 24 hours ago, I shot a scathing defense of Uncle Bernie Sanders. Now, I personally am a Tulsi person. At this point, the big homie Alec and a couple other people converted me to Tulsiism. But I still got a lot of love in my heart for Bernie. So when Elizabeth Warren said her silliness about the big homie, I went out to defend the big homie. Well, we just took our son to an appointment, got him vaccinated, got him a flu shot, and as we're driving, Leah of the village, Leah of Middle America, and if you want to join, dear listener, all you have to do is go to facebook.com/AmericaMiddle, sends me this link, this YouTube link in the messenger.
Yeah.
So we watched it, and I was kind of paying attention, not paying attention, because we were driving, and I was thinking to myself, this is some fringe, crazy guy. You know, I was thinking about whether I'd even shoot a video on it. I'm like, you know what?
Yeah.
I'm not even going to shoot a video because this guy is probably some idiot in his mom's basement.
It just, to me, looked like some guy at some bar trying to impress some girl.
Trying to stunt some girl. Exactly, friend.
That's all. I thought the guy was saying something crazy, but I'm like, but who is he? I mean...
Yeah, I'm like, I'm not doing a video on this because it's like, I wouldn't, you know, like, the Westboro Baptist Church doesn't represent Christianity.
Right.
The KKK doesn't, you know, Al-Qaeda doesn't represent Islam. So I'm like, this is some guy in his basement. No, I'm not doing a video on this. Then, my man, Jay Kunst, emails me. And come to find out that this dude is the organizer of Sanders' campaign in Iowa. Which, if you know anything about this stage of the election, is a massively important position to occupy. So this is not some guy in his basement. This is a very important individual. So his name is Kyle Jurek. He is the field organizer for the Sanders campaign. All right, so here are some clips. We're going to watch them.
Prepare yourself.
And here we go.
Do you even think that some of these, like, MAGA people could even be re-educated?
I mean, we gotta try. I mean, like, so, like, in Nazi Germany, after the fall of the Nazi Party, there was a shit ton of the populace that was f***ing Nazified. I mean, like, Germany had to spend billions of dollars re-educating fucking people to not be Nazis. Like, we're probably gonna have to do the same thing here. And that's kind of what Bernie's like, whole like, hey, free education for everybody, because we're gonna have to teach you not to be a Nazi.
The term re-education is a term that is so stained with tyrannical government imposition of their worldview onto the populace that there's no way to use a term like that without it being completely inflammatory. Mm-hmm. Now, part of me feels like I'm pretty sure these Project Veritas people are right-leaning, right-wing organizations because you never see a Trump expose. At least I haven't seen any. It's all been left-wing media exposés and all the rest of it, and most of the stuff we already knew. Oh, whoop-de-doo, CNN is going after Trump and is killing other stories to go after Trump. And none of us thought anything else. Nobody was surprised. But what in the world is happening? You're sitting at a restaurant and somebody talks about re-education. At some point, you have got to think to yourself, man.
I know.
What is going on? You have to know you're being set up. You know, I've been through certain trainings where you set set people up to say things that end up being incriminating, et cetera, et cetera. And this was a very, very good takedown. This is I mean, what in the world? You would figure that these guys would have some sort of training.
I know. But
re-education, you mean like what's happening to Muslims in China right now? Where thousands and thousands of these Muslims in the atheist Republic of China, who, by the way, these folks still consider themselves communists, so, I mean, we'll see the link later, where these Muslims are being arrested without trial, separated from their families, women being systemically raped, etc., etc. Now you've got the Chinese government talking about they're going to rewrite the Bible and the Quran so as to make it more socially acceptable. Like that type of re-education, or the re-education that happened in the Soviet Union, like that type of re-education in the gulags, which we will find out later on that it wasn't really that big of a deal. This is unbelievable. Yeah. Now look, I didn't get exposed to this version of leftism until last year. And I consider this individual a friend. But I had a particular discussion with somebody who called into the channel. And we were going back and forth, and I was so confused, and I ended up saying, wait a second, are you a statist? And he said yes. And then I was like, whoa, wait a second. Because usually, in my world, anytime you call somebody a statist, they're like, oh, shut up, you're lying. I mean, it's like the ultimate sort of pejorative for any freedom-loving person. And he was like, oh, yeah, I'm a statist. Yeah, a state should have that. And then he went on to kind of rail against free speech. Not in the way that this guy did at all. And then he went on to justify Antifa. And look, I love the guy. I consider him a friend.
It's such a scary thought.
But
to give the state that kind of power.
Yes, I agree. It's absolutely insane. And obviously, especially from a Christian perspective, you have the doctrine of original sin, and you give a small
that's literally
group of
what I was
people
thinking.
That type of power over the masses. It gets very bloody very quickly. But that was my first introduction to that sort of mentality. I didn't think that anybody, especially in America, had that sort of mentality. What in the world, man? And then now you gotta, and here's the thing that kills me. Here's the thing that really pisses me off about this entire situation. Bernie Sanders talking about free education has been one of the in my mind, gold standards of what I call a new American possibility or a new Democratic Party. I kind of alluded to it yesterday, where it's like, whoa, we can actually do something to help people who've had the boot on the neck of, this was a beautiful thing to me. Your cerebral cortex isn't even developed yet. You're getting these 16, 17-year-old kids to make these crazy financial decisions that's going to affect them for the next 20, 30 years, 2 or 3 decades. I mean, we just left a decade. 2 or 3 decades worth of financial strangulation. And now we're talking about and we can kind of lift that. And you know that Trump and his folks and his donors and the big banks and all, because all those guys are his friends, JP Morgan Chase, all these people that are doing this to these kids, they're not going to want any parts of that. So now what's going to happen? This fool connects Bernie's good-hearted, good-willed love of the little guy to re-education camps. And this is your hand-chosen field organizer, Mr. Sanders. So you know what's going to happen in November? It kills me that these irrational people do not recognize the time that we're in. It is 2020. Everything is recorded. You had that silly lady on TMZ talking about, if Trump wins in 2020, we're going to do another impeachment. All the Trump people were like, thank you very much. Because now, when not only is it about winning the election, actually, now she made it about winning the House. Because the only way that Trump got impeached was because the Democrats dominated the House.
Yeah, you're right.
So now the Democrats are now the Republicans are going to say, we've got to win the House. We have to keep the Senate. We got to win the House. Look, this woman just said it, and nobody on her side came and refuted it. This is what they plan to do again. So now the Democrats are going to lose the House, I believe. And now here we go. Bernie has a virtuous and I believe well-intentioned, good-hearted plan to help these kids out, and it's going to get subsumed under this junk. Now, I have no idea what Bernie's going to do in, 30, 45 minutes. I'm assuming this guy's going to get termed and he's going to have to, I completely repudiate this.
Yeah.
But here's the problem with Bernie. Here's the problem that Bernie has. I forgot the other person's name, but Linda Sarsour is a big one. Linda Sarsour supposedly is anti-Semitic because she supported Brother Minister Louis Farrakhan. Now, and she wouldn't repudiate Minister Farrakhan. Mm-hmm. And so, is the accusation, Farrakhan's anti-Semitic, yada, yada, yada. Mm-hmm. So that's one. Now, the concept that a Jewish person like Bernie Sanders is hiring an anti-Semite is absolutely insane to me. But the Farrakhan hate in America, that's one of the few things that the Democrats and the Republicans can actually agree on, is hating Minister Farrakhan. I wonder why.
I was just going to say, well.
Very interesting. Very interesting, even though in Farrakhan's latest CD, he did 2 or 3 songs with the Jews, with Jewish people, specifically talking about the Holocaust and how Jewish people have had to come up. But so let's forget that. He's just, okay. So he is endorsed by Ilhan Omar, who supposedly is also an anti-Semite because she questioned people's loyalty to the country, which is absolutely ridiculous. That to me is a valid gripe. She said something about a Jewish lobbyist talking about, it's all about the Benjamins, which all of us have talked about, the corruption in Washington, and it has to do with money. But the minute you combine anything about Jewish people with money, all of a sudden you're anti-Semite. It's just like the silliness that happened during the Obama administration. Anything you said negative about Obama, you were automatically erased. Automatically. I don't really like this Obama. Oh, racist. You're ignorant racist. You probably have 3 teeth and you probably married your niece. You know what I mean? Like, just ridiculous stuff. So Bernie's already been under fire for his associations with people and the people he's chosen to represent him in his campaign. And it's like, you didn't know that this guy was a psychopath, Bernie?
Yeah,
Come on,
bro.
bro. Bro, this is the field organizer for Iowa. How did you not know that this dude was a complete and total sociopathic, psychological monster?
Too much going on? Is that a paid position?
I'm certain it's a paid position. We actually have a middle American. Isabel she actually does his stuff.
Oh, really?
Yeah. She's like door-to-door bang. She gets the video con, all that jazz. Come on, Mr. Sanders. How did you not know? You didn't know? And after the Sarsour thing and the other guy is a black guy also that got booted from the campaign because apparently he's anti-Semitic. How did you not know that this guy... You didn't do a quick wash of your group and say, okay, who else could hurt me? This guy, when he was interviewing for the position or whatnot, he had to have talked to him. Like, he never said anything inflammatory or crazy like this, talking about re-educating people. And now this idiot has just tied the very beautiful concept of student loan debt forgiveness to, he's saying this because we want to re-educate people.
Yep.
Which plays right into the hands of far-right conspiracy theories about what happens in academia, et cetera, the leftist takeover and infiltration of academia.
Yep.
Where, you send your kids over there and then they're all going to come out leftist crazy, the crazy conspiracy theories that happens on the far right. Now, he's completely fed into that, and now you're going to get regular folks going, wait a second, what? You're an insider in the Sanders campaign and you just let it out that that's what you guys are doing? Now, I don't believe that that's Bernie's intention in any way, shape, or form. It's not.
I don't think so either.
There's no way. But I said this yesterday. I said, Bernie thinks everybody's like him. Yep. You didn't see the video yet.
But you said something like that.
Elizabeth Warren went out, threw him under the bus, and instead of blaming Elizabeth directly, he blamed her staffer. But then when it was reversed, she didn't blame Bernie's staffer, she blamed him. Yeah. Which it was actually Bernie's staffer, it wasn't him. So the whole thing was completely flipped. And I said, Bernie, everybody's not like you. Come on, bro. This guy, he just connected one of the most amazing... Like, I was so hopeless. Now, I don't have any student loan debt. I never went to college. And I think it's pretty obvious when you see the videos. But I didn't even have any hope. I was just like, okay, Medicare for all. Everybody hears me talk about Medicare for all.
Right,
I'm like, okay,
right,
Medicare is the best we can do for people. Then he talked about the student loan forgiveness. I was like, what? Wow, this is crazy. This would be great for these kids.
Absolutely.
And now Trump gets to attach this, and this is going to be out spinning like crazy.
Of course,
you
of
better
course.
believe it. Like, thank you.
course.
Somebody probably from Veritas probably got a $10 million check from Donald J. Trump.
It's just like you say, it just stinks because it's like now going to put Bernie in this bad light, like he's connected to this guy because he is connected to him, but obviously this cannot be the way that Bernie thinks.
There's no way.
You know,
there's no
and
way
it's
he
just-
thinks like that. There's no way that he thinks like that.
If your speech is calling for the elimination of people based on race or gender or religious, like for whatever reason, like things that people can't change, then you should expect a f***ing violent reaction.
This is another thing that my friend introduced to me. This whole hatred of free speech. If you're free speech, first of all, everybody knows the famous clause about yelling fire in a crowded theater. You cannot criminally threaten someone. That's why it's called criminal threatening. You cannot appeal to criminal to your First Amendment rights to criminally threaten someone. Dumb. We already have this in our laws. So this whole thing that these people do, like I have no idea where this is coming from, other than I cannot countenance people disagreeing with me. So this is sort of like I still say this guy is a fringe guy. Like, he's not a guy, obviously he's not some dude in his mother's basement. He's not.
Right.
But he's definitely on the fringe. He's one of these people that dresses up in a little Antifa costume and goes after old white dudes. Like, I hate to tell you, I hate to say this, but it's always some white, privileged guy who says stuff like this because they're used to acting out in public and not having to deal with the consequences of it.
Yeah.
You know, Tim Pool, like 6 months ago, did one where Rashida Tlaib and all these crazy people were raising money for these Antifa people who got locked up and thrown in jail for doing violent acts out there in the street. It's always these dudes who have all this privilege, who feel that they could just go out in the street and attack people who disagree with them. Now, I'm not saying there's no brothers and sisters in Antifa. They probably are. But you know what I'm saying. Yeah. It's always the same group of people. And nobody on the right, I'm sorry, but there are not Trump supporters. Your average Trump supporter is not calling for the elimination of anyone.
Well, yeah, and that's what I was going to say, is he says if your speech is calling for the elimination of people based on race, gender, you know, all those different things, it's like I haven't seen people doing that, but I have seen people calling something hate speech, calling stuff, you know, stuff that isn't actually like, well, that's not what the person, like, you stretch that a bit far to make it seem like there was something really terrible going on.
Yeah, exactly. And these people are construing any sort of disagreement with them.
Right.
And one of those idiots in Antifa went up to this old lady and said, put away your symbol of oppression or whatever. It was an American flag. He put hands on her.
That's what I mean.
Like, these people are crazy. They're walking
hands
around.
on an old lady is hate.
It was ridiculous. I put a thumbnail up of an Antifa guy punching someone.
Yep.
And they go, Vin, man, you're ridiculous. That was Photoshop. Da-da-da-da. So I did the research. I'm like, shit, it was Photoshop. So I'm trying to be honest, right?
Yep.
I take down the picture, and I have another one where the Antifa guy is doing this with the baton. So I go to the guy and say, oh, is that better now? No comment.
Yep.
These are violent people who react in violence when people disagree with them because they do not believe that their arguments are good enough to stand up in the public square. Now, everybody knows how we feel about abortion. I've stood out in public and had debates in public, whether digitally or literally out in the public square about abortion, because I believe that when people actually know the facts, they're going to say, holy shit, we're doing this to little babies? I don't believe, look, and I believe that we're killing actual human beings, but I've never put my hand on a single person who's advocating for abortion. And by the way, if you want to talk about speech that's talking about killing people for a trait that they cannot control, that's literally what abortion is.
Right.
But you don't see me putting hands on people in public because I believe that just the simple exposure of the topic and the simple exposure and the science and the truth about it, and I know that there is a wave, there's a pro-life wave happening all over our country with lesbians, LGBT people, anarchists. You just got a shirt from Albany Rose, pro-life feminist, Satanist, atheist, feminist. We couldn't be farther apart from each other ideologically, and yet we're all bound. So because these people do not feel that this speaks to the latent insecurity of the fact that he doesn't believe that his perspective is a perspective where he can convince people. That's why he has to talk about violence with anybody who disagrees with him. I'm sorry, but I know that there are crazy right-wingers. We saw them with the Jews will not replace us craziness, whatever. And then the next year, there's like 9 of them at the next Unite the Right rally. We know that the numbers are probably exactly the same. Antifa crazy leftist people and Jews will not replace us crazy right-wing people. You guys are only fighting each other. The rest of us are in the middle like, what's going on here? Look, newsflash. I believe in open borders because I'm a Christian and I don't think there's a biblical case where you can tell people that they cannot come into your country, okay? I also recognize that is a very extreme position. And as recently as, 9-10 months ago, Bernie was saying, look, we can't let everybody into the country. Hello? Does that mean that Bernie's a xenophobic person who hates Mexican people too? Barack Hussein Obama was called to the border in chief. Should he get attacked too on the street? Is he hateful? So I'm sorry, the average right winger is not saying he wants to kill and eliminate all Mexicans, LGBT people, yada yada yada. The average right winger is saying, as far as the immigration thing, if they come in here legally, fine. If they come in here illegally, they gotta get deported. About the LGBT stuff, look, man, do whatever you want to do. I don't want to bake your cake. They're gonna say, I don't think it's God's, whatever.
Yeah.
Average left-wing person is like, look, man, I know you think it's babies and all that, but I believe it's a woman's right to choose. Like, all of us in the middle here, at certain variations of the middle, are not using all this violent rhetoric.
No.
It's people like you
Yeah.
and the crazy Nazis.
Yeah.
And hello, the Soviet communists killed more people than the Nazis. This is the thing that bugs my mind, bro. Like, I said this one time in a fireside. If you wear a swastika shirt, you're the worst person in the world. YouTube is automatically going to demonetize this just because I use the term swastika. But you got these idiots running around with a Che Guevara shirt.
I know.
Che Guevara who killed innocent people. Che Guevara who talked about nuking and killing millions of people, innocent people in New York. And that's okay. And the hammer and the sickle, that's okay. But Nazism is bad. Okay, all right. It's mind-boggling to me that Bernie did. I mean, he's yikes. You deserve a violent reaction. These kids are gonna end up getting killed, man. Out in the streets, man.
Yep.
These people, it's a. When you get exposed to extreme violence, and you see extreme violence, I don't think people realize, especially young men who have not been exposed to extreme violence, people don't realize how fragile life is.
Until you see that.
They don't get it.
Yeah.
How quick everything goes.
Yeah.
All of the person's life and the memories and all that can get snuffed out in 2 seconds. You go to the wrong person in the wrong state.
Yep.
You start saying all this crazy stuff in one of these stand your ground states in Florida, something like that, and somebody pulls the screws to you. And look, man, the people that these guys are going up against are people that have been letting off since they were 8 years old in their backyard.
Right.
They can unholster their weapon and sight that shit quicker than you can open a soda, a diet vegan soda, whatever. And that's the thing that ultimately, like, I listen to people like that. I don't get nervous because I know people like this are soft. Like I know. Like,
yeah, I hear what you're saying, but like hearing somebody saying those things it's disrupting to my person. I'm like, are you serious? What are you talking about? You're gonna put people in schools to re-educate them and stuff.
Well, yeah, but what I was saying was I'm not. I have no concern for a guy like I have no concern for a gang of Antifa people. I really don't.
Yeah, I know.
What concerns me though is their own safety. Because you got a lot of young, silly, idealistic kids who grew up in the suburbs who resent their parents for being monetarily successful. Figure that out. We'll see that in a second. And they have no idea about how quickly things can turn on them. And that is what concerns me about these people.
Yeah.
That's what scares me. Because like these people are playing around with stuff, man, and they have no idea. You know, all right, here's the last clip.
There's a reason Joseph Stalin had gulags, right? And actually, gulags were a lot better than like what like the CIA has told us that they were. Like people were actually paid a living wage in gulags. They had conjugal visits in gulags. Gulags were actually meant for like re-education. The greatest way to break a billionaire of their like privilege and their idea that they're superior. Go out and break rocks for 12 hours a day. You're now a working class person, and you're gonna learn what that means, right?
The gulags weren't that bad.
What is this guy talking about?
The gulags,
and where did he even get his information?
The Gulag Archipelago is a book that my mother made me read when I was in the 9th grade. My teacher called and said, Vincent isn't going to school. And I was out with my boys, and we were actually being stupid. And people could have died. We were being dumb. So anyway, we got out of the situation. I got home, and it was kind of ironic because I was like, oh yes, man, we had a close, man, it was because when I talk about like extreme violence, it is not fun. It is the most nerve-wracking. You know, watching the movie. These kids, they watch stuff in the movies, yada yada yada. Like I was in the Bronx, New York, man, and we had issues, and we were in a place where we were not supposed to be, but we thought because we had martial arts background, because I was in the 9th grade, I didn't understand yet about weapons and box cutters and this and that, and I'm like, anyway.
Yikes.
I'm turning back into my building, get off the 5 train, and I'm so happy. I was shaking the entire time, like you just see me like hopped up on too much Red Bull or coffee, and I calm myself down, and my relationship with God was kind of off. Say a little prayer of thanks. I open the door, and my mom, she took some sort of kitchen utensil. I don't know what it was, but it left a giant welt on my arm for probably 2 or 3 weeks. I was.
Oh my god.
I had black and blue over here. I was like on the ground. She's beating the hell out of me. The teacher called and said, your son hasn't been in school, and he finally came to school today, and then he left after the 2nd period. We haven't seen him since. So that's what I opened the door to. And so
I think that she shouldn't have done that, obviously, but at the same time, I think she was scared for you, and I think that she knew you could do better than that.
Oh, 100%. And, you know,
she was smart enough to know you weren't out there reading in the library.
Say what? Well, no, I wasn't. It was bullshit over a girl as usual. But it wasn't me this time. Shout out to the big. Shout out to Jose. So she beat the hell out of me, and then she basically said, "You are sitting here right after school every day. You're gonna finish this book," and it was the Gulag Archipelago.
Why did she pick
from
that
Alexander Solzhenitsyn? Because it was the biggest, thickest book she read. And I had to come home from school and sit at that table in the kitchen. The whole kitchen smelled like raid because we were like in the hood, man. Roaches, rats, whole 9 yards. Horrible situation. And I had to read that Solzhenitsyn, and I could not. I said, this is not real. This isn't real.
It was so terrible.
It was so terrible. Here are some clips from I didn't know at the time that Alexander Solzhenitsyn was a CIA agent. You know, one of these guys, one of these Antifa people. They haven't even read the book. Here these people are. They haven't even read the book, and it's like the definitive expose of Soviet communism. But Here we go. Let's look at the awesome conditions in the gulags. You can start here.
It even reached a point of such confusion that men and women were imprisoned in the same cells and used the latrine bucket in each other's presence. Who cared about those niceties? Give up your gold, vipers. The interrogators did not write up charge sheets because no one needed their papers. And whether or not a sentence would be pasted on was of very little interest. What are they talking about? What papers? What are they talking about?
Your charges, like your day in court.
Oh.
Actually having justice.
Only one thing was important. Give up your gold, Viper. The state needs gold and you don't. The interrogators had neither voice nor strength left to strengthen in torture. They had one universal method. Feed the prisoners nothing but salty food and give them no water. Whoever copped up gold got water. 1 gold piece for a cup of fresh water. People perish for cold metal. Wow.
These were the awesome living conditions. Well, this was the whole proletariat versus bourgeoisie, the regular downtrodden, poor downtrodden worker. And remember I was talking to you about Eat the Rich and Bane and Batman and all that, and those were some of the themes in that Batman movie.
Yep.
And then the Bane was sort of the Lenin character. Anyway, so the idea, they took all the rich people, took all their shit, and then said, where is the rest of your shit? Where's the rest of your gold? And they tortured these people until they gave up their money.
The location of where their gold was?
Exactly. So men, women, they would shove them all in there and force them to do that, and gave them salty food, gave them no water until they were tortured to the point. And here's
the interrogators had neither voice nor strength left to threaten torture.
Yeah.
Because they did so much of it.
They exhausted themselves in torturing these people. They exhausted themselves in torturing these people. And this idiot is up. Oh, you know, this is the CIA to shut up. This is the thing that gets me. This is the thing that gets me about these people. He's sitting there talking about Nazis as if he's so superior to Nazis. The Gulag's a concentration camp. You idiot! Unbelievable. Here's the second portion of that. Go ahead.
If in fact you had no gold, then your situation was hopeless. You would be beaten, burned, tortured, and steamed to the point of death, or until they finally came to believe you. But if you had gold, you could determine the extent of your torture, the limits of your endurance, and your own fate. Psychologically, the situation was incidentally not easier but more difficult, because if you made an error, you would always be ridden by a guilty conscience. Of course, anyone who had already mastered the rules of the institution would yield and give up his gold. That was easier. But it was a mistake to give it up too readily. They would refuse to believe you had coughed it all up, and they would continue to hold you. But you'd be wrong too. To wait too long before yielding, you'd end up kicking the bucket, or they'd paste a term on you out of meanness. One of the tater draymen endured all the tortures. He had no gold. They imprisoned his wife too and tortured her. But the tater stuck to his story, no gold. Then they arrested his daughter. The tater couldn't take it anymore. He copped up 100,000 rupees. At this point, they let his family go, but slapped a prison term on him. All for money?
They took this guy, tortured him, tortured his wife. Then when they found his daughter, and they were probably threatening to rape his daughter, and then he finally let it up. Well, I mean, keep in mind, wealth is not accumulated in one generation. Wealth is accumulated generationally. So when you're looking at 100,000 rupees, you're looking at the wealth that his family had worked for generations to accumulate.
Yeah.
So this whole, and I gotta tell you,
wow.
I'm gonna have a moment of consistency here. I held Trump partially responsible because he threw out all that craziness on Twitter, and the Iranians went crazy, shot a missile. Sure, the Iranian government's responsible, and their people held them responsible. And what I was saying was, it's our role to hold our government responsible for our leaders responsible for their words. So you can't have a country that's surrounded by 35 American bases and tell them we're going to bomb 52 of your sites if you mess with us, and expect them to just handle things in a common collective fashion. Well, sorry, Uncle Bernie, but when you said that billionaires shouldn't exist, sorry, man. You are partially responsible for this mentality.
Oh, absolutely.
What do you mean billionaires shouldn't exist? And you know what's funny? It's billionaires now.
That's exactly what I was just
You know why? You know why Mr. Sanders said billionaires?
Is he a
And look,
millionaire?
Look. If anybody, if you're new to the channel, God bless you. But please miss me with the whole, you're anti-Bernie. I literally less than 24 hours ago, as a matter of fact, it was 3 o'clock in the morning.
It was, yeah.
I mean, I had incentives to stay in my bed, but I felt it was important for Bernie, and like I said, I had to do my part. So miss me with the you're an anti-Bernie person. This is Vincent being completely consistent. I held Trump accountable for his words when Bernie says billionaires should not exist. Now I know in context, he was basically saying we're going to tax the hell out of them until they're no longer billionaires. That's basically what he said. But the fact of the matter is, Bernie, when you say that, and then one of your guys says stuff like, hey man, you put these billionaires in the gulags and have them break rocks for 12 hours, then they'll know that they're not better than us. How come it's not millionaires shouldn't exist, Mr. Sanders? Why billionaires? You do realize that you're still in the 1% of 1% of 1%, Mrs. Sanders, as a millionaire. So why are you saying that billionaires shouldn't exist? And why is this idiot saying that billionaires shouldn't exist when nobody, the very few people that ended up in the gulags, if you look at the money, were as rich as Bernie Sanders? Hello,
That's crazy.
Mr. Jurek. Your candidate would have been in the gulags breaking rocks at the ripe old age of 78 or whatever Bernie is. Do you people think at all? This is mind-boggling to me. So sorry, Bernie, man. Look, man, you put that out in the ether. You said they shouldn't exist. And Bernie's a student of history. He knew very well about the Soviet Union. I am sorry. But I said this last year. I was like, this rhetoric where we have this sort of antipathy toward rich people and hatred toward rich people, not comfortable with it. I'm not comfortable with it, man. Yeah. Look, man, if what's it? Bezos wants to spend all of his life accumulating wealth, I think that's a pretty empty existence. But if he wants to do that and he earns billions of dollars, he ought to be able to keep his billions of dollars.
I just think that people are wildly hypocritical because they're talking about where they are. So then they're like, oh, well, the people that are like millionaires and billionaires, they shouldn't have what they have. But if you were like some poor person in another country who had literally nothing, and you know, they say like even the poorest of us in America is rich compared to the rest of the world, like some parts of the world.
I spent a winter in Parsippany, New Jersey in a homeless shelter.
It's like, what are you doing to take care, like, because you're the one that, those people could say the same thing about you. Like, we're not going to have any middle class people or whatever class you are. Like, we're going to totally bring everything down so it's at least fair. So that way, there are not homeless, starving people. There are not babies and children dying because they don't have enough nutrition in other countries.
Clean water.
Yeah, this is not going to happen.
Yeah.
But are you doing anything to change that? Or are you just too busy going after the millionaires and the billionaires to actually do your part in your world and what you need to be doing?
Nothing but spoiled, ungrateful.
I guarantee that guy does nothing for the poor.
It's all a bunch of spoiled suburban kids that have a giant God complex that think they're more righteous than they are. I'm sorry, man.
Yeah, and the other
I was in a homeless shelter in Parsippany, New Jersey with me, my two brothers, and my mom in a room 3/4 the size of the studio that I'm in right now. And you know what? I was still richer than the majority of the people on the planet Earth. I ate 3 meals a day, and aside from the times that there was no shower and we had to go to the Y, I had a warm shower. It wasn't the best place. It wasn't an optimal situation, and I worked my tail off to make sure that my kids are never in that situation. Yeah. But even being in that situation, that's why I have no shame in talking about it. Because when I was in that situation, my mother gave me a global perspective on life. And I've been to other countries on this planet. And those people would have killed to live in that homeless shelter and be poor. Right. So it's all these spoiled, and these people do, like, here you are in a bar. Whatever you paid for that drink, whatever you paid for that Coca-Cola, could have went to some poor kid. Sorry. I don't want to hear it. What are you... I'm so sick and tired of people saying, we need to go after rich people and demonizing rich people. What are you doing to help anyone?
That's what I'm saying.
We put out a thing a couple days ago for these kids in Yemen. because of what's happening over there. We got very, very little participation. I'm not mad at you. All I'm saying is, come on, man. When are we going to take some personal accountability to actually do, if you're really worried about your fellow man, here's how you can tell if you're worried about your fellow man. Go to your last month's bank statement and see how much money you spent on other human beings. If you spent nothing on other human beings who are not your family because it was Christmas, don't cheat. If you spend nothing on other human beings, I don't want to hear a freaking word from you about Bezos, Bill Gates, dude from, I don't want to hear it. Because you're a hypocrite.
Do your part.
Do your part. It's 350 million people in the United States of America. If each of us gave $5 a month, we'd solve world hunger tomorrow. I don't want to hear about Jeff Bezos. He's one guy.
Yep.
And all it is, I'm sorry, all it is you're a jealous, lazy person who is mad at people who found ways to generate more capital than you, and that's all it is, point blank. If your bank account doesn't show that you've given any of your money to anybody else, then you're full of shit. Leave the channel, I could care less. I cannot tell you.
Unsubscribe.
I cannot tell you.
No, just change
how much I don't care. How much I don't care. Now you're talking about they had conjugal kisses. What do you mean? Are you talking about when the men and the women were sharing latrines? Is that the conjugal kisses? Is that what you're talking about? Is that this guy probably can't even pronounce Solzhenitsyn. He probably doesn't even know what he's saying. He obviously doesn't know what he's talking about. Oh, I'm so sick of these people.
And then this part I didn't like either. Greatest way to break them of their privilege and their idea that they're superior is to have them go out and break rocks for 12 hours a day, like a working class person.
Yeah.
And it's like, okay, somebody can just fall into money. I'm not saying that can't happen.
Right.
But if you fall into money and you don't know how to manage your money, you don't know how to work to make that work for you, you're going to lose your money. So, like, how can you say that these people that have a lot of money haven't been doing a bunch of work to get that money?
Well, yeah, but again, there's no American that is breaking rocks for 12 hours a day either. There's no American that's doing that. And this guy has never, I mean, come on, man. This looks like the type of guy that's used to hard labor. Come on, bro.
We know what his job is.
Come on, bro. Your job is to go door to door and act self-righteously and demonize people who have more money than you, even though you are in the richest country on the face of the earth.
That's what I'm saying.
These people, man, whoo, good night.
You overstepped, buddy. You overstepped.
You overdid it, Holmes. You in the danger zone. Speaking of persecuting people for, he said religion. If you go after people for their religion, then you should be physically assaulted. There were once again believers who, this time, were unwilling to work on Sundays. They had introduced a 5- and 6-day work week. This is what happens when you're a statist. The state becomes God and tells you when to work and when to rest. Now, as a Christian, God tells me when to work and when to rest. But the state, when they occupy the place of God, that's what happens. And there were collective farmers sent up for sabotage because they refused to work on religious feast days, as had been their custom in the era of individual farms. You see, before statism took over, your farm was your farm. But now you're working for the entire collective. So if you won't work, then that means you're trying to sabotage the Soviet Union. So off to the gulag you go. This kid probably hasn't even read Animal Farm. I'm sure he doesn't get it. And always there are those who refuse to become NKVD informers. Among them were priests who refused to violate the secrecy of the confessional, for the organs had very quickly discovered how useful, discovered how useful it was to learn the content of confessions.
Wow.
The only use they found for religion.
Wow.
And members of non-Orthodox sects were arrested on an ever wider scale, and the big solitaire game with the socialists went on, and that's why right now in freaking 2020 you have Muslims and Christians to some degree, but Muslim mostly, being completely exterminated over there in China. It's this mentality right here that's called statism. And silly people who have never in their lives understood what an actual oppressive government is have no clue. The very fact that you can come on here on the internet and talk about Trump and mock him and call him the Orange Man and blah, 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 means that you have no freaking clue what an actual tyrannical government. See, this is why I know all these people are full of shit.
Right.
Because try doing that in Nazi Germany. You know that they have underground newspapers and such in Nazi Germany. I held a Christian. She was almost killed for her faith, but she was imprisoned by the Chinese communists. And you know what her crime was?
She went under. She a bunch of torture too.
And it was not even an anti-government magazine. It was a Christian publication. It was an underground, unauthorized Christian publications. They tortured that girl over and over and over again. She was
so small.
So small. Because the Soviets, the communists. Now you're going to sit up here and talk about how you're going up against a tyrannical government and a fascist government. You don't know anything. You've never seen fascism. You know what fascism is? It's Abdul Rahman over there in Syria, and they're out there playing soccer, and some kid hits a goal, and he said Rasulullah couldn't even have blocked that one, and the crazy people from ISIS overhear it, and right then and there they saw the kid's head off right in front of his friends. No trial, no nothing. That is tyrannical government. You on the internet typing up stuff about the Orange Man and putting Orange Man memes out there is not you resisting any tyranny. I regret to inform you. You putting on your little hoodie and walking around with your little Che Guevara shirt inside your little black hoodie and your little black pocket, doing all the silliness that you idiots do out in the street, almost getting yourself killed. You're not going against any tyrannical anything, because if you were going against a tyrannical government, you would go to sleep very quickly. I've seen tyrannical governments. I see how they treat people. You're not in one. Stop pretending. You don't know anything. All right. This will purge our subscriber list of all the Antifa supporters. Look, the reason I'm so angry about this situation is one, because I'm a student of history, but two, I don't see how Bernie recovers from this.
No.
Now, Tulsi was my first pick, but in the real world, I only believe that Bernie's the only one that has the ability to really go up against Trump. And yesterday I said that the DNC is already priming us for Elizabeth Warren, but I don't see how he recovers from this. There's just way too many cyclical Donald Trump ads here, and I just think it's over for him. I just think it's I thought the Elizabeth Warren thing yesterday was a blip, and then it was kind of a little ribcage thing, but I think he could. But this one, I don't see it. I don't see how in the world he's going to be able to overcome this. I think he's finished. And even if he wins, and now, on top of the fact that he's given the Republicans everything they need, this guy has just now given the establishment Democrats everything they need for their excuse as to why they can't roll with Bernie.
Of course.
They're going to say, this is your third strike. You had Vin and Sori, you had that other guy. Now you got this guy. You're giving the Republicans too much. And now they're going to be able to say, now even though we all know that they plan to do that anyway, they're going to be able to say, you know, whatever. And I just... And I don't I don't get it. I don't understand. And it's one of those things where if you're a leader, you got to know where your weaknesses are. And that's one of the things that we do so well together is I know where I'm weak. And I farm that stuff out to you. Bernie, obviously, personnel selection is your weakness. And you should have farmed that out to somebody who was pretty stringent, had some pretty high standards.
Yeah.
And I just don't see how he recovers from this. So, look, if you're still here and you're one of these Antifa people, I think that you're probably a very good-natured person. You probably think you're doing the right thing. But this type of stuff is absolute poison. It's not good. It's already been tried historically. It's horrible. And it brings out the absolute worst in your humanity. If you want to help the downtrodden, open up your checkbook, skip the Starbucks appointment, and do something for somebody. Find a homeless shelter, find a soup kitchen, and do something for somebody. Stop obsessing about taking money away from people who are richer than you and your parents. You, dear listener, especially if you're in America, are richer than about 90% of the planet Earth.
Right.
Those are facts.
Right.
Love your neighbor.
Take care of each other.
Middle America.
We are the media.
Till next time, guys.